Hi, everybody. It's Marianne Bailey with Live Community, hosted by The Hip Senior. Today, I am here with my good friend, Cheryl Ilov. She is a physical therapist and she is a Guild certified Feldenkrais practitioner. Did I get that right, Cheryl?
Absolutely. That's perfect.
Cheryl, welcome to Live Community.
Why, thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
I am happy to have you. So, Cheryl is, I don't know, I just think Cheryl's amazing. I hope that you guys will as well. And I know that you will. Because I'm going to let her tell you what she's all about and whatever. But I got involved with Cheryl when I listed her books on the Hip Senior Books. And she's involved in, you can see in the background, she's an author. She has books. She's a ninja warrior. She's a redhead. She's all that and above. She's amazing, but she's also very qualified in what she does. And we're going to be talking about getting in shape today and being your healthy self. So, Cheryl, I'm going to let you take it away.
Okay. Thank you so much, Marianne. Basically, what I am all about is busting the myths of aging, punching Father Time in the face, and
Like that.
telling the naysayers to be quiet, go away, and mind their own business, especially when it comes to getting older. I don't even like to say getting older, and I don't like to use the word the aging process. I like to think of it as our maturation. We're maturing and we are maturing every single day. But once we get to a certain age, being fit, staying in shape, being flexible is a little bit more challenging. And a lot of times we just don't know what to do about it. So we might go to the experts, and the experts will tell us a variety of different things, depending upon the expert and their personal opinion. For example, some of the experts will say things like, what do you expect? You're getting older. Your joints are supposed to get stiff. They are supposed to be achy. You are supposed to get that middle-aged punch. You are going to be losing length in your spine because you're compressing. All of these things, don't worry about it. We'll take care of you. We also have medications. We can give you all of those type of things. What you don't hear very often is, hey, let's see what we can do to be as fit, healthy, and active as possible at every single stage of life. So you're probably thinking, that sounds good, but is that even possible? And yes, it is. We just have to understand our bodies a little bit better. We have to understand how to get into shape, how to stay in shape, and we have to ditch the traditional exercise modality or whatever. So, first of all, I'm going to start by asking you a question. Do you think that getting older means losing health and vitality? It's a really interesting question and an important one because depending on your answer, that kind of will give you an idea of what the rest of your life is going to be like. If you said, well, yes, it does mean losing health and vitality, then you already believe that. And if you say no, then obviously you realize that there's another way of doing things. So, why is that important? It's because what we believe is what we eventually become. What we tell ourselves and what we hear from other people, be it the medical community, the fitness community, the media, our friends, and even our family, is what we will eventually believe, even if it goes against our own inherent belief system. Because our brain is constantly hearing that message and it's constantly recording it. And it's not saying, is this true or is it not true? It's just recording it, just like putting input in a computer. It's not judging, it's just listening to it and recording it. And eventually, you are going to believe, because it's going to change the neural pathways in your brain, you are going to believe all of the information that you have inputted from other people or the information that you have inputted from yourself as well. So that's basically the first step in being fit and flexible, vibrant and healthy for the rest of your life in your 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and even beyond. It is possible. And in my humble opinion, it all begins with our mindset. And again, what we believe is what we become. So if you're thinking that maybe being fit, healthy, active, vibrant at every stage of life as a senior is not possible. You need to flip the switch, change the narrative, change the script, and just understand that, yes, you can do it. It might not be as easy as you want it to be. It does take a lot of attention. And I don't want to say work because I prefer using the word play. When we start to play, then it's a little bit less oppressive. It sounds a lot more appealing rather than, oh God, one more thing I have to do. And it used to be so much easier when I was younger. Let it go because I love being, oh, hey, that's my name. But I love just proving the naysayers wrong. Even when I was in my 30s, I was told I was never going to be able to have the life that I wanted before, the life I had before, because I was a chronic pain patient. I was a chronic pain patient for 2.5 years. And I'm telling you, it was a horrible experience. But back then I was a respiratory therapist. I wasn't a physical therapist. I didn't understand my body that well. I didn't really understand movement. And so I was relying on the medical professionals, of whom were colleagues of mine, to help me through this situation. And instead of getting better, as I was going through the program, as I was going through all of the appointments with the physicians, all of the x-rays, the MRI, taking all the medications that were prescribed to me, going to all the physical therapists and doing, I can say this now because I am a physical therapist, don't tell anybody, but all the stupid exercises and stretches that the physical therapists were giving me, they just didn't work. It took me until 2.5 years when I finally saw the light and had a mental head smacking moment. And that was when one of my physicians told me I would never have the life I had before, would never be able to do the things I wanted to do, would never be able to do my laundry and my grocery shopping all in the same day because the arthritis in my spine was so severe, I would end up being bedridden. And that's when I had the mental head smacking moment and I realized, you know what? I this was not my life. I didn't like that label of being a chronic pain patient. And for me to get out of that situation, I had to take charge of my own life and my own health. And that's when things really began to turn around. I became a physical therapist. I learned a lot. It sent me on this incredible healing journey, learned a variety of different techniques, all of these techniques that I used to help heal myself. And then I got my master's degree in physical therapy, opened up my own practice and used those same techniques to help my clients over the years. And I continue to do that today.
Cheryl, let me get it right. So if you're headed down that path, so you've had physical therapists, you've had doctors, all that other stuff telling you that this is going to be your life. You're saying that this does not have to be your life, that you can turn things around, you can start believing a different way. Because I know like when people start going to physical therapy and stuff, it gets to be expensive. They spend a lot of money for doctors to tell them this information and go to physical therapy and spend those copays, even if they have insurance, all that stuff. It gets to be expensive. But you're saying you can stop this process and reverse it.
Yes, I can. You can to a certain degree. And you're absolutely right. It is expensive. It's also exhausting. And it depends on who you choose as your physical therapist, as your physician. Not all PTs are alike. So if you are going to a physical therapist, if the physical therapist is giving you the gloom and doom type of projection that I was given, or your physician is, you might want to look around because there are so many different alternatives. But the other thing, talking about alternatives, as you said, I'm a certified Feldenkrais practitioner. There are so many different other alternative modalities out there besides physical therapy. And I'm not knocking PTs, I'm not knocking the profession. They do very good work, but it didn't work for me. So I don't know why I even thought that I would become a physical therapist and offer people the same model when it didn't work for me. But the good news is there are a lot of different alternatives out there that we have at our fingertips. Yes, they're also expensive. They also can be time consuming, but they're a lot more empowering and giving us our power back and teaching us how to move better and feel better and to move without pain, to move with less effort. And I actually am hoping over the series of these Fit Over 50 webinars to be able to share some of those tips, some of that insight with you so you can go on your own healing journey to either improve the way you move, the way you feel, or to, if you're already in really good shape, to capitalize on it and keep it going for the rest of your life.
So I hope to take some of you all with me on my journey as well with this because I 100% believe in what Cheryl does. And I know that I have struggled with some of these things that she's mentioned like my entire life. I've struggled with my weight my entire life. I've struggled since I turned 50. I am now 53. I've had 3 years of excruciating pain, of not being able to walk for periods of time, like months at a time, being just, and I have stairs in my home. So let's see if we can all kind of start doing this together. Let's create a community and be healthy together because I know I want to be healthier. I don't want to be 60 years old and be bedridden and not be able, sorry, not be able to walk and do things that I want to be able to do. I want to be able to enjoy my grandchildren someday and do this stuff. What do we have to do to even start that process? And Cheryl, while we're at it, what does guild certified Feldenkrais practitioner mean? If people don't know what that certification, what that title actually means, can you give us a
Okay,
little?
but before I explain that, I have to sit back and give you kudos, great applause. Thank you so much for saying that about community. That is one of the biggest things because if you surround yourself with like minded people, it's going to be so much easier for you to be on this healing journey, this journey of health, self exploration, vitality, than it is if you're sitting around with a bunch of people who are the naysayers. Bless their hearts, just wish them well, but cut them out of your life or at least create some distance because they're not going to be serving you well. But if you create a community where you can support each other and just you say you don't want to be bedridden at 60, who does? I met a man recently, don't tell my husband, but I met this wonderful man who at the age of 60 decided he had to change something. Something had to change. He was really overweight. He was having a lot of health issues. And he started running at the age of 60. And he is now that was 2 years ago. He lost a tremendous amount of weight. He looks fantastic. And just, last week, he did something called the Everest 2030 or 20 something, I don't know what it was, but where it's an air quotes, mountain, and I think it was Washington, the state of Washington, where they simulate climbing Mount Everest. It's not that big of a mountain. So basically what they would do is they would hike up the mountain, take a gondola back down, hike back up a second time, gondola back down, hike back up until they did 13 hikes in a row up that mountain, back down on the gondola. And that simulated the same distance that they would do on Mount Everest. He
Same
did
day,
it.
same day, 13, all in the same day.
Oh, yes. All in the
Okay.
same, yeah, without stopping up and down. Isn't that incredible?
That is amazing.
2 years ago, where he was at that point, and then he just made that decision. And he said, "Was it easy? No. Am I glad I did it? Oh, yeah." And he's so excited. He just keeps on laying down more challenges for himself because it's given him new vitality, new energy, new purpose. And realizing that you can make that much of a change, that just lights a fire underneath you. And it is so incredibly motivating for other people. But that I'm tying that into community. So this was a long way of getting around it. He started a podcast and a community for mature runners. And the name of the podcast, you'll love it. It's Running for Your Life.
Ah, I love it.
That's the name of the podcast. So this is a community where mature runners can really encourage each other. They can support each other. It's just a fantastic way of setting yourself up for success. So for the listeners out there, for this community, this wonderful hip senior community, anyway, you can create a sub community of people who really want to encourage each other and support each other. And that's actually one of the tips that I have for us today.
Could
So let
contact this guy and see if he wants to come on live community, by the way.
I thought about that. He is a wonderful person and you would absolutely love him. So I will do that. His name is Barry Karch. So anyhow, going back to what is a guild certified Feldenkrais practitioner? Feldenkrais is a very sophisticated form of neuromuscular reeducation based on the scientific principle of neuroplasticity, which is just a fancy pants name for a neurological term that means that our brain, our bodies, our nervous system, which of course everything's just so interconnected, it is just one system, is inherently flexible malleable, and can change during the entire course of our lifetime. We can change and interrupt habits and patterns that we have had even our entire lives. We can gently interrupt them to allow for new patterns to come in, whether it's cognitive, sensory, movement, thinking, feeling, all of that can be so positively impacted through this neuroplasticity. And that's what Feldenkrais is based on. So we actually change the pathways in our brain and we do it through movement. And the movement that we do is so gentle, it's so non judgmental, oh, it's yummy. At first, it's what the hell am I doing because I'm not really even moving. It seems like I should be working, I should be lifting weights, I should be hurting because if no pain, no gain. Feldenkrais just blows all of that to smithereens. And it teaches us, it helps us learn how to align our body from our skeletal structure rather than trying to strengthen our body from building our muscles. Because here's a real little dirty secret that the fitness community and a lot of other experts don't tell you. You really can't build a strong body just by trying to pump your muscles if your skeletal structure is off. If you have a small misalignment, and I'm not talking about the misalignment that we get corrected by the chiropractor, it means just if I have a little bit of a forward head and I start to try lifting even light weights, that's going to put a lot of pressure on my shoulders and my neck. And then I'm going to compensate somehow by maybe doing something with my back. So that one little being off somewhere is actually messing up the entire structure of my body. It's almost like I like to think about it as the foundation of a house. You have nice solid foundation's laid. Then you start to put up the support beams in the structure. Over time, if that foundation starts to shift a little bit, the weight from the bricks and the mortar and everything is going to start to collapse upon itself a little bit. And then you end up with foundation damage. Of course, our bodies are similar, but they are so much more beautiful in design and function than the structure of a house. But we're built that way. And the curves of our bones and the shapes of our bones and our joints are meant to be able to support all kind of weight and all kind of stressors. And that's why we can do some of the exercises that we do. That's why we can, go skiing and function the next day or lift weights and be able to function the next day because our skeletal structure is in the proper alignment. And that's why it's so much easier too when we're much younger. As we age, some of our habitual patterns of standing, sitting, moving, lifting are integrated into our body, into our brain, and that can put the plumb line, the beautiful plumb lines of our skeletal structure is shifted. Maybe so that leads to arthritis in a knee, it can arthritis in a shoulder, in our spine, different injuries. So it's not because, oh my gosh, I'm getting older, I'm falling apart. No, it's not because you're getting older, it's because something is misaligned. And the way you're moving maybe needs to be changed a little bit. So that's what Feldenkrais does. We have two ways of working in Feldenkrais. It's called awareness through movement lessons. And those are more like group classes where people come to a group class either on Zoom or in person. And the practitioner, myself, would be guiding them through like a series of movement patterns that lasts about 45 minutes. Another way of doing it is hands-on, which is what called functional integration, where you're actually moving the person in very gentle ways. And I'll tell you some of the rules about Feldenkrais. Basically, there are no rules. The one main rule in Feldenkrais is that we have to make ourselves comfortable. When in your life have you ever heard
That idea.
right? The better you can beat yourself up and the harder you can beat yourself up, yay, you're one of the winners. No, we will start maybe, I'll give you a scenario. Lie down on the floor and make yourself comfortable. Now, right about now, probably half of the listeners are going, ooh, I don't want to get down on the floor at all, let alone lay on the floor. And how could lying on the floor be comfortable? You might be surprised. You lie on the floor and it's okay. This isn't comfortable at all. So you make tiny adjustments to help yourself be comfortable. Maybe you need a pad under your head. Maybe you need a bolster under your knees to take pressure off of your low back. Lying on the floor on your back with your knees straight can be incredibly uncomfortable for your low back. So we figure out how we can make ourselves comfortable. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, wow, I can breathe. All of that excess tension and unnecessary tension and energy I'm expending on my body to keep myself in an upright position lets go. And now all of a sudden, everything else releases. You can relax. The muscles start to soften. Your breathing starts to get a little bit deeper and easier. What we have just done in this little scenario in just a few moments' time shifted ourselves, our brain, our nervous system out of the sympathetic nervous system, AKA fight or flight, into the parasympathetic nervous system, the one where relaxation, digestion, blood flow, bodily functions, muscle relaxation takes place. In our society, we are constantly bombarded with information, with stimulation. And a lot of it isn't good news. Let's just put it out there. And that just puts us into this excitability, this fight or flight, which fight or flight is a natural neurological reaction to danger. And we need that. But once the danger is gone, it's like somebody cuts you off in traffic, almost hits you, and you go, but then they speed away and you don't give them a hand signal. You just calm yourself down. And then all of a sudden, you need to go back to that parasympathetic nervous system. Now you're already so nervous that anybody coming close as you're driving is just ratcheting you up and ratcheting you up, keeping you in the parasympathetic or in the sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight. Our hormones are just going all way out of whack. Our blood chemistry is changing. Our heart rate stays up. The blood pressure stays up. That's a really unhealthy place to be. So that's why there's so many wonderful benefits of Feldenkrais, but that's another one is it teaches you how to be able to transfer and transition out of that sympathetic nervous system into the parasympathetic state. So I know this was an awful lot. Does that make sense? And do you have any questions about it?
I think it makes a lot of sense. I'm sure I have a billion questions after I go back and rewatch this video. I do know that when you said our heads leaning forwards, I read an article recently that was mentioning cell phones, like how much our heads are leaning forward more because of the use of cell phones. We always have our heads buried in our phones these days. We're all looking at them or whatever, and this motion of our heads leaning down is causing that. So I would imagine that your program, I don't know what to call it, you tell me, would help fix some of that narrative as well.
Absolutely. It would reverse it actually fairly quickly. But before I tell you how, and I know everybody's chomping at the bit, and I do want you, when you do have questions, please write them down and you can either email me and send them to me because then I can address it in the following the webinar for the following session or 2 weeks later. Yeah, I love problem solving. I love problems because I love being able to give people suggestions and pathways to find a solution. It's what I live for. But before I tell you the little secret of how to correct a forward head without even trying, I want to talk about cell phones just for one moment because you're absolutely right. We all have these wonderful little devices and they're, oh, hey, look, there's my little Bruno, my little Italian greyhound. We all have those devices. They are such a gift and such a godsend in a way, but they're a blessing and a curse because we are constantly looking at them. And it's not just our posture that I'm concerned about with the forward head position. It's a safety issue. And it drives me crazy when I am in public and I see especially women with their heads in their cell phone, paying attention to this little device and not paying attention to what's going on around them. It absolutely terrifies me because predators love a distracted person. And that's what they're looking for. Someone with a cell phone is a distracted person. You're an easy target. If that cell phone is in your pocket, your backpack, your briefcase, your purse, then you're free to lift your head, look around, pay attention to your environment, look people in the eye. Yes, even strangers, smile and say hello. Even strangers, you might be surprised. So that's my little, I guess, PSA for the day.
Not only will it make you more aware and make people realize if you smile at them and look at them in the eye and say hello, that yes, you're aware and you're paying attention. But guess what? It'll also brighten your mood and brighten your day because or someone else's day. because you never know, just sharing. And I've been on this kick lately. Oh my gosh, I've been on such a big kick of sharing love and kindness. Be kind to people, even people that you don't know, because I cannot tell you how many times people have said hello to me just randomly or been nice or kind. And it's just brightened my whole day. And I've had a really shitty day up until then. And then all of a sudden I'm just like, cool, that guy was good looking, or that person was really nice, or whatever. And they said hello to me, whatever the kid scenario may be. You just don't know. Edwin from one of the networking groups I belong to tells the story about how he was walking through a city one day and wanted to say hello, stop to say hello to this person. And this person didn't want anything to do with him. And he was just like, hey, just talk to me for a few minutes. And the guy, whatever. And he kept pushing at him and just nagging him, but let me talk to you. Let me talk to you and whatnot. And I know that I'm grossly exaggerating this. I'm not exaggerating, but I'm probably telling it all wrong. But the point of the story is that this guy contacted him later on, found him, went back through social media and stuff and whatnot, found the guy, called him and thanked him because he said, on the way, I was on my way to kill myself. And your kindness that day changed my life.
Mhm.
You never know by being kind, even if it's on social media. If you have something kind to say instead of something crappy, instead of being a keyboard warrior, say something kind instead of mean. Take the benefit of the doubt. Just be kind.
I love that. I think that, yeah, we seem to have lost that. When I grew up, yeah, I'm older than you. And when it's be nice to people. You always treat people the way that you want to be treated yourself, the golden rule, and do unto others as you would have others do unto you. Some of those others were never taught that rule. And I think that we're getting away from that. It's almost, and maybe it's social media or whatever. It's like, he who is the meanest wins, he or she who is the meanest wins. And that's just stupid. And now I'm going to tie this into this little conversation and the segue into neuroplasticity. Because when you look at somebody and you smile, the neural pathways in their brain is mirroring that. It's called mirror neurons. When you smile at somebody, even if they're having, as you say, really royally crappy day, all of a sudden they're getting the signal that smiling, that joy, that happiness is like that mirrored in their brain and those synapses. And then all of a sudden they're smiling back. Maybe it took a delayed response for that story that you told us, but that's basically what happens. And if think about it, if you're really having a wonderful day and you're smiling at everybody and you come across a big fat grump who just punctures the joy out of you, it's like all of a sudden you feel yourself caving. So yeah, I say smile more and look people in the eye and put your cell phones away.
Yeah. Especially, sorry guys, if you're sitting at a restaurant with somebody and you're sharing a meal, be engaged. Put your phone away. I used to always have my phone out because my daughter was younger and I was worried something was going to happen, whatever. And I think we use that as an excuse also. Because if your phone's ringing, you're going to hear it probably in your purse or in your pocket or wherever. But just put it away, be happy and be engaged in the moment. Because I think often by having our phones out, we're wishing time away. And some of us, am aware that some of us don't feel good and some of us hurt and some of us are sad and some of us are in pain and we do wish time away. But hopefully Cheryl can help us re-engage and bring back the not wanting to wish things away for us. So how do we do that? And how do we disconnect from that phone? And how do we get our head back into alignment?
Mhm. All right. Okay. So that was beautiful that you tied that all the way back from this tangent.
I promise I need to come back to this.
So now I was talking already about getting down on the floor and making yourself comfortable. So just the act. So, okay, we're talking the forward head position.
Can
And then,
yoga mat help with that, by the way?
I'm sorry,
Can people use like yoga mats? Does that help with that floor idea?
as far as using the yoga mat for what?
Just being more comfortable. You were like saying get more comfortable, and you were saying some people are like, "God, get on the floor." Does like a yoga mat, does that bring that back into play? Can people use yoga mats to be more comfortable on the floor?
Absolutely. You can use your yoga mat. And I'm going to take it like maybe a few steps more further than that. Yeah, yoga mats are great, but they're not real thick. I have a fantastic yoga mat. I don't have it here, otherwise I would show you. But it's a very thick mat because I take a class where we do a lot of things on hands and knees. I've got bony knees, and I want to be comfortable. So I got it has a very thick, it's wonderful. I think I got it at Target, and you can look online, whatever, for them. I like those thicker yoga mats. They're going to be a lot more comfortable for you. So that's what I would recommend.
I like that as well.
Yeah, they're great. I love mine. Okay, we'll get the yoga mat. The one thing that you don't want to do, and that's why we're on the floor instead of getting on the bed. You can go on a bed or a couch. That's too soft. What you need when you're doing something like Feldenkrais and you're trying to realign your body, reorganize your body is the way we say it in Feldenkrais. What you want to do is you want to be on a firm surface. So that's why it's so important to be on the floor, even though it's really uncomfortable at first. Once you have the yoga mat, you can take a couple of maybe a blanket and double it or triple it, even if you want to. But you don't want it to be too soft because then you're going to sink into it and you won't get what we call the proprioceptive feedback from the firmness of the floor. And so
Mm.
you won't be able to contact the shapes of your body. So it's going to throw things off. So a thicker yoga mat, a thicker blanket, but just don't go on the bed. It really has to be on the floor. And I'll give you another tidbit about that in a minute. I'll make a note floor here.
I also know, Cheryl, that there's going to be a lot of naysayers out there that say, no, if I get on the floor, I will not get back up.
Yes, and that's why I actually made a note to set floor in my notes. So I'll finish this, what to do, and then we'll talk about those people who say, I am absolutely not going to do it because I have a beautiful story about that. So, anyway, get down on the floor, and what you're going to notice is do bend your knees. Don't try and lie on the floor with your legs straight because that's really uncomfortable. You can take a bolster, you can take a big, huge pillow, you can take maybe two pillows, put them under your knees until you feel like there's no tension in your low back. So, using procs is what we're all about to make ourselves comfortable. And once you learn how to make yourself comfortable, that triggers a reaction in your brain, a kind of internal awareness that it starts to become automatic in other things and in other positions. So, pillows under the knees. Now, your head is going to feel like it's like falling backwards because if you have a forward head position, then you have the arch forward. And if you try and lie back, you're going to crimp the back of your neck. And that is incredibly uncomfortable. So, what we do is I use pads. I don't know if I could reach that far without knocking a few things over, but I actually have they're gardening pads. So, you can get them at the gardening store, you can get them at Target, you can get them probably online. But I use these pads and put them under my head until my head is in proper alignment. Or I do that for my clients until I see that their head is in line with their spine. A lot of times when I do that with somebody, I'll hand them a pad and I say, put this under your head and see if it feels better. Or first I'll say, do you feel you need a pad under your head? And they'll say, no, I think I'm fine because they're used to it. So I hand them one pad and say, put this under your head and see what it feels like. It's, oh, yeah, that feels better. Okay, try another pad. Oh, that feels even better. And then once they're ahead and I can see that they're in alignment and there's absolutely no strain on their neck, then I know that they're comfortable and they know they're comfortable. So you don't want to get,
Rare things that people kneel on in the gardens.
yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Do you want me to get up and grab one?
How? Because you'll
Okay,
knock.
good.
We're good. I think we
It's a
all.
little bit of an obstacle course here.
Yeah, I think we
But
all
yeah,
know what that
they're
means.
just gardening pads. You get a nice flat support. If you have a very firm, flat pillow, that would work as well. But again, it's just like being in the bed. If you have a thick pillow, you're going to sink back. Your nervous system isn't going to get the information it needs to receive. It really does need to be something firm. You could even use a book or a couple of books if you want to. Just making sure that be the princess and the pea. That's exactly what we want to be. Everything wants to feel so good that you could fall asleep on the floor. And all you have to do once you're comfortable, everything's in alignment, all you have to do is breathe and relax. And you will be amazed how quickly all of a sudden you'll get this one breath that goes, oh. It just happens unconsciously because your nervous system is going, okay, everything's cool. We're safe. We can let go. And that's exactly what happens in Feldenkrais. You're letting go of unnecessary tension, patterns that aren't serving you. It just all snowballs into a beautiful package.
So if you're putting pads underneath your head and you're alone and you don't have anybody to view, are you straight or whatever? So basically do it until it feels right. And if you put one too many, you'll feel it and you can back down.
Yes, exactly. You will know. And here's where I have a
Now,
little.
what's that average number? Is there like 3, 4? If you go to the store and you buy some,
If you're going to the store and you're buying pads, buy a lot of them, buy at least 4 maybe, because they are cheap and you can use them for other things like kneeling if you have to get down on your knees and dig something in the back of the closet. And I'm not going to give you a number of how many typically people need because everybody is so different. And if you don't have anybody else around, yes, you said the exactly correctly. You'll know if you have too many, you'll know if you don't have enough. And we have a saying in Feldenkrais that goes like this: trust the intelligence of your nervous system because it will give you the signals. What we have to do is listen to the signals that our body is sending us. A lot of times, and I'll use mild pain as an example, you tweak your knee and it's, oh, I'm going to ignore it because it's going to go away. And then your body's going to start tapping you on the shoulder, going, you better pay attention to it. And then you don't, and the knee starts hurting more. And then it eventually snowballs out of control. Paying attention to the sensations in your body is really different. To be able to take that time, turning off all the devices, turning off the music, not letting the dogs romp on top of you as you're trying to do this. It's really giving yourself time to sink into yourself and your own body. It's not that it's difficult to do. It's difficult to give yourself that kind of awareness and that kind of permission. A lot of people meditate. I don't meditate. I have ants in my pants. I can't sit still and empty my brain or my mind because it just doesn't work for me. But I can get down on the floor and do that because that works for me. Or I can do slow, gentle movement and I can get into that state. We're all different. We have different wants, needs, bodies, history, structure, and we need to find a way what works for us. But the thing about Feldenkrais and somatic movement is that you get to find your own way, what you need, instead of going to an exercise class and doing what everybody else is doing, even though it might not be a good movement pattern for you. But question?
when you say somatic movement, does that have anything to do with your book, your ninja book back there and the swords behind you? Is that somatic as in sumo?
Somatic movement is just another one of those fancy words of describing the mind body connection. And there was a lot of hoopla several years ago, mind, body. Like all of a sudden, finally, we realized the mind and body were connected. Duh.
Same, that's
But
all. Oh, really?
yeah, it's both. Why didn't anybody know that before? But to me, the somatic movement takes it to a deeper level because there's always a mind body connection if you're moving, but it takes it to a deeper level where you're really sensing internally what's happening in your body, in your sensations, in even a very simple movement of taking my hand and maybe just turning it over. It's, oh, what happened in my forearm? What happened in my shoulder? I noticed when I did that, my chest opened a little bit and I felt more open, as opposed to when it's in, I feel a little closed off. Something that small. It sounds so ridiculous, but it's amazing how much power, both as a education and experiential way, that small movement. Yeah, that small movement can relate to that book because that small movement can be something that when somebody grabs me can take down somebody half my age and twice my size.
So let's pause there for a second. Unrelated to this, but related to this at the same time. Will you please tell everybody the story about how the guy wanted you to come to the dojo and he was like, "Do you want to be able to take down men with your legs," or whatever that story is? Because I love that story.
Yeah,
I
that's a
had a
great
about
story.
that story.
Okay, so this was the first time I met my sensei was my acupuncturist before he was my teacher. So he was referred to me by one of my clients who knew I needed an acupuncturist. And she said, try this guy. I really like him. So because this woman told me she liked him, she was really picky. Yeah, she chose me. So of course she was picky. So I thought, okay, I could trust her. So I called this guy, made an appointment. And the very first time I met him, I went into his office and gave me some shorts to change into and a t-shirt so he could do acupuncture on me. And the minute he started putting needles in my legs, he got a very far away look on his face. And he said to me, with your legs and my coaching, I could teach you how to kill with these things. And I'm lying on the table going, who thinks like this, let alone says it out loud? Right? And this is a crazy person. I need to leave. I need to grab my purse and run. Unfortunately, I was literally pinned to the table. I had needles in my arms and my legs. Unless I wanted to try and get up and go running out the door with needles sticking out all over me, the man had a captive audience. I, of course, said no.
Absolutely
And
sounds like the beginning of a horror movie, by the way.
no, it's not the beginning of a horror movie. It is the beginning of quite a story. I did say no. He never gave up. He just kept trying to get me to train with him. It took him 3 years until finally he broke me down. He wore me down, and I said, okay, I will take a few classes just to prove to you how much I'm going to hate it. I was 47 years young at the time, and I thought that I'm in it for maybe a month, then I'm out. 10 years later, I became the man's first female black belt. In 20 years of teaching, he never had a woman achieve such a high rank. So that's another part of this fitness over 50 stuff. You are never too old to try new things.
And isn't that an amazing story? Now, when I met Cheryl, I was like, my first reaction would have been like, yes, I do need to be able to kill with these legs. But even if I didn't, well, obviously, we're not going to walk around killing people with our legs. But obviously, if I had the ability to do it, I want the ability to be able to do that. Well, yeah.
Okay, so I just want our lovely little community to know this because I think it's just hysterical. It's hilarious that of all the people who have heard this story, of all the people I have told this story to, only one person said, hey, I would have said, yeah, sign me up, teach me how to kill with my legs. And that was Marianne.
Only one. Gosh. Your people have no sense of humor then because they totally should have.
Yeah, maybe I may have had one or two say, yeah, I've taken him up on it. So it took me 3 years and I did finally take him up on it.
That is awesome. And if you guys haven't checked out her books, obviously they're behind her. You totally should check out her books because Cheryl's story is just amazing. And that's why I connect with her so much. It's not that we both are amazing. We have red hair. It's that she has this energy and this vibrance to her. And the fact that she became a black belt. How old were you? 50?
I was 47 when I started. I was 57 when I got my first black belt. I will be 67 next week. Feel free to send me birthday wishes. And I am currently
Gifts.
working on my third level black belt.
That is absolutely wonderful and a little insane at the same time because most people think I can't do it. I'm too old. I hear this all the time in the senior community when I am out there teaching technology or when I'm doing any of this stuff. And I say, oh, you could do this, or you could start a passion project or a business. No, I'm in my 60s. I'm too old. Stop it, folks. You're not too old. 60 is like the new 40, right? Or 30 in
Or
Cheryl's case.
whatever. Yeah.
You know, it's you're not too old to do anything you want to do. If you're 60, 70, 80, I don't care. I had a 94-year-old client who was learning digital photography and and told me, asked me to teach her how to use Photoshop. I'm not a big illustrator fan. I just no. And I was like, you know what? More about Photoshop than I do. You teach me
Mhm.
because I use things like Canva and stuff for graphic stuff. I'm not that technically advanced that I do that, but that a 94-year-old woman is using Photoshop and Illustrator and stuff like that for her stuff was amazing. And so you're never too old to learn something new.
Absolutely. And thank you for saying that. And that goes back to the very beginning when I said, what you believe is what you become, and what you tell yourself is
I've
what
been
you
telling
eventually
myself the
believe.
wrong story for years now, so I want to start reversing this. So what?
Yeah.
So lead us on.
Okay. Just okay, it starts right with the mindset and changing that narrative. You are not too old. And I will tell you this is just between the two of us. So don't tell anybody else. Okay. At the age of 58, when I turned 58, I decided it was time to start engaging in more age appropriate activities. So I started pole dancing.
I love that.
So I still am pole dancing. I still do ballet class. I took ballet on Saturday. No, yesterday. Yesterday was Sunday. And and I think I do it because I can. And to me, it's almost like giving a double middle finger to the people who told me I would never have the life that I had before. I would never have the life that I wanted. I could never do my laundry and my grocery shopping on the same day because I was too broken. The arthritis in my spine was so severe. If I had believed them, if I had listened to them, where would I be right now? I got a pole right over there in my basement in the girl cave.
I love
It's just you can do anything. So this is even more interesting. One of the women that I met in pole, as a matter of fact, I just saw her yesterday, just turned 73. She is 73. She is in pole class. She is going to be competing next Saturday.
another person that needs to come on live community and tell everybody you are never too old to do whatever you want to do.
Pretty amazing. It's just amazing. I know. So anyhow, that's it. It all does begin in the mind, and what you believe is what you become. If you say you're too old, then guess what? You're too old. But if you tell yourself, I'm not, I want this challenge, and what lights a fire under me, so for the rest of you, I don't know, let this light a fire under you as well. What really does it to me is when somebody tells me that I can't. You can't do that. You're too old. You're not smart enough. You're too big. You're too small. You're too this. You're too that. We're all too something. No, you can do whatever you want. You put your mind to it. You find the right people to support you, and you can do it. But I do want to, I know we're going a little bit long here, but I do want to go back to the floor.
Yeah.
For those of you who are thinking, there's no way I'm going to get down on the floor. Hey, it does not have to look pretty. It does not have to look good. You can put down pads for your knees or whatever on your way to get down there. If you need help getting down on the floor, if you really feel like you're unsafe, and you might want, go to a physical therapist, hire somebody, or just go to a physical therapist. I want you to be safe. If you have like sturdy furniture, you might have to use to get down on the floor and then back up again. That's okay. It's not cheating. We have a saying in my martial art, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. So just getting down and back up again, you have no idea how much that does for your balance, your flexibility, your core strength, and you're going to be a lot safer. You won't be, and your balance will be better. You won't have a fear of the floor. The floor is your friend. As we get older, we don't get down on the floor enough. So we develop this fear and a fear of falling. And then when we do fall, it can be catastrophic. So that's another way of keeping yourself fit, healthy, and vibrant. And I had one client who she was in her 60s at the time, and she kept saying, no, I'm not going to do it. I can't do it, blah, blah, blah. And I said, we went on and on for weeks. And finally I said, Carol, forget about it. It's all right. You're doing so many other wonderful things. If it's not going to work for you, it's not going to work for you. You don't have to do it. So stop beating yourself up and celebrate the accomplishments that you've made so far. And she would come in with a friend of hers. They would work out when I had my physical office twice or once a week. So about a month later, she came walking into my office and she casually happened to mention, oh, by the way, I'm not getting down on the floor once a day. I'm doing it twice a day. And my jaw just dropped open and I said, what? And she said, yep. And she said, I wasn't going to tell you until I knew I could do it. And I was doing it on a regular basis. But she says, it was really hard at first. I just struggled mightily, but I kept at it until finally I could do it. What made her decide that she was going to do it was she was expecting her first grandchild. She wanted to be able to get down on the floor with her grandbaby and back up again, be able to carry her grandbaby. That was the motivating factor. We all have something that lights a fire under us. What is it that lights your fire? What is it that motivates you? What is it that you really have a burning desire to do or to avoid?
I love that so much. One of my favorite podcasts to listen to these days is Mel Robbins. And she had Jamie Kern Lima, or is it Lima? I know here in Ohio we have Lima as one of our cities, but I know some people say Lima. So whichever way your last name is pronounced, if I'm hacking it, I'm sorry. But she sold a cosmetic company to L'Oreal. I think it was like $2.1 billion that she sold this for. But the point of the story is that she went to all these investors up front and was like, please help me invest in my company. Please believe in me. Please help me do this and whatever. And she kept being told no. And she went to this one investor and he told her no. And when she went back to him and said, why? Why are you telling me no? He said, because I don't believe you're skinny enough and you're pretty enough to be selling cosmetics. And so she was on Mel Robbins' podcast. And since then, I've listened to her audiobook as well. She has a couple books out there. Uh, and one of the quotes that I have 4 quotes that this woman gave on this podcast with Mel Robbins that I wrote down and stuck here to my laser printer next to me. But the one that stands out for this episode was, no one can tell you that you're not the right fit. And Cheryl is proving that every single day. She proved that she could overcome arthritis in her back. She proved that she could overcome all these fitness challenge, all these mobility issues that we can overcome. For me, like I said, there's been periods of time in my life that I have not walked. There was a time for that almost 2 years I could barely walk. I couldn't go up and down my stairs in my home to do laundry. My husband was doing laundry, which was really nice, by the way. But that's one nice thing I can say about him in the past was that for almost 2 years there, he did all the laundry. By the way, if you have brand new white towels and brand new white jeans, do not let your husband do the laundry that week. Brand new blue jeans, not white jeans, blue jeans and white towels do not mix, by the way. But that these things can be overcome. And I'm so looking forward to it because I was telling Cheryl before we got on here, I fell down my stairs a couple of weeks ago now, 13 stairs that I landed in at a puddle at the bottom of my stairs. She's going, what? And I realized that I could have been so much more hurt. And I've been working really hard lately on some flexibility and some movement stuff, whatever. If I hadn't been doing that, maybe I would have been more hurt. Maybe it would have been a completely different story. But but it re-injured a knee that I've been having trouble with, that I have arthritis behind my kneecap. And so that's one of my motivations, is that I want to be able to walk when I'm 60 and 70 years old. If my daughter's getting married this coming spring, I want to be able to move better at her wedding. I want to be able to get out on the floor and dance with people. I want to be able to carry her children if she has gives me grandchildren someday. All those things. I want to be able to, one of my bucket list places is Greece. I was asking
Mm.
the other day, because I've been to Europe, but one of my first reactions was, are there a lot of steps in Greece? Yes, the answer is yes, there are. There's a lot of hills, there's a lot of steps and stuff like that.
A
I
lot of
want to be able.
cobblestones as well. A
Yeah,
lot of uneven surfaces.
yeah. So this body is not going to take me there. I want a new body to do that. So join me in getting with Cheryl to figure this out and how to be more flexible and be more moving. Cause I bought a bike last year. And right now, like just getting on my bike, my knees are hurting, which is good and bad. But I don't want the hurt. I want to be able to go out and ride my bike and and enjoy doing that without all the hurt so much. So,
Mhm.
Cheryl, thank you so much for being with us and for being on this journey with me and with us. I want to probably create some kind of, we're working on having a chat messenger program with Community Life for the hip senior. So I will send out some notices, register for the next class and let me know what kind of things, and let Cheryl know what kind of things that you are interested in learning more about and being part of. And we will make that happen. But in the meantime, Cheryl, any last words?
Oh, boy. All I can say is just remember, what you believe is what you become. Don't let anybody else put a label on you. I really want, I envision an entire community, a society of people well over 50 who are just kicking butt and taking names. So remember, join me and Mary Ann to help punch Father Time in the face, bust the myths of aging, and tell the naysayers to be quiet and mind their own business and go away.
Hip seniors, be part of live community, hip seniors, be movement, be
Mhm,
movement. Oh, I like that. Be movement.
mhm.
That's what your title of the next book needs to be for you. Be movement.
I'm currently working on a follow-up to this one, and it's just a great big steaming pile of crap. I called Donna, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I need either a coaching session, I need something, I need to just trash this thing, I need to blah, 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 blah. And we had scheduled a call for 2 weeks, later. And then finally, I just had to calm myself down. I had to give myself a little Feldenkrais. And then it was like, okay, sit back. You didn't do the first 2 books in a year. You're not going to do this one in a year. Just let it go. Stop pushing so hard. And so it's getting better. Getting better.
I'm gonna stop this here in a minute, but guys, in case you didn't want to know, I'm gonna leave that in there because Donna Mazzatelli is the one who is live with us doing journaling classes and learning how to journal so that you can positively even write a book in the future. Check that out. Register for her classes as well.